Hello and welcome to Projector, and on this episode I delve deep to find the devil inside. Wait, hang on. That's the wrong intro. Hello and welcome to Bad Movie Down! Sorry, it's been a while since I've done this. Found footage movies are nothing new. Cannibal Holocaust and a number of exploitation movies did it in the 70s and 80s, but the Blair Witch Project was the first major example, using the then new internet to spread the idea that it was real, even having IMDb claim the actors were missing, presumed dead. Don't worry, they're very much alive, only their careers were injured. But it was only when there were improvements in consumer camcorders and video editing programs did the subgenres start to catch on, including Cloverfield, Wreck, and the previously reviewed Diary of the Dead. But it really came to prominence thanks to the 2009 success of Paranormal Activity, which is a huge hit that Paramount bought for $350,000 and turned, in a sense, viral by asking the public to demand the movie play at their local cinemas and building huge hype in the process, going on to make $193 million worldwide, despite the fact that an earlier version of the film had already leaked online. And soon everyone got in on the trend, and if you go to your likely non-existent video store now, you'll probably spot tons of indie direct-to-video imitators, because it's cheap and you don't need names. And it's not like the horror genre is an expensive one in the first place. And Paramount certainly got in on it, turning Paranormal Activity into a franchise and launching a specialty studio called Insurge Pictures to make more cheap rubbish, launch new talent. Their first film was The Devil Inside, written, directed and edited by William Brent Bell, who was behind the widely reviled video game horror Stay Alive, so clearly he was hot fresh talent. Oh, and his next movie is another found footage horror flick called Were, as in werewolves. A trailer that condensed all the scares in 2 minutes was attached to Paranormal Activity 3 and got audiences buzzing, despite the fact that it was released on the first weekend of Dumping Ground January and not screened for critics, who were likely just finishing up their holiday break anyway. It did huge business, beating all the festive holdovers with a $33 million weekend, the third highest January opening ever, half of which was on the opening Friday. Alas, those punters quickly realised they were getting suckered, giving the film an extremely front-loaded opening, registering their distaste by giving the film an F rating on CinemaScore exit polling, and there were reports that audiences widely booed the ending. By the second weekend, word of mouth was so terrible that attendance dropped 76%. Not that it mattered, because the movie made $101 million worldwide on a mere $1 million budget. The Devil Inside's legacy can be found on the now traditional scheduling of a horror film on the first weekend of January. The abysmal Texas Chainsaw 3D had success in the slot in 2013, and next year sees Paramount return to the position for Hispanic-themed Paranormal Activity spin-off The Marked Ones. Not to mention 20th Century Fox itself is releasing another found footage horror called Devil's Due just a few weeks later. As for Insurge Pictures, they went on to release 3D concert movies for Justin Bieber and Katy Perry, so obviously that non-revolution didn't amount to a whole lot. What's even better is the blurb on the back of the DVD box. Discover why The Devil Inside is the movie critics call evil in its purest form. Well, technically that isn't lying, that's exactly what they thought, given it has an 18 on Metacritic and a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes. The movie opens with title cards explaining the Vatican does not endorse the recording of exorcisms and they did not aid in the film's completion. This was a claim that was extended by the film's own advertising campaign, alleging it was the movie the Vatican doesn't want you to see. Since when has the Vatican endorsed any movie? I bet even they don't care about another exorcism movie. They probably don't want to see it for the same reason that everyone else doesn't, because it sucks. On October 30th, 1989, Maria Rossi made a phone call to the police admitting that she killed 3 people in her home. What follows is footage mocked up to look like it's been recorded on VHS, showing the police calmly walking through the house and pointing out the bodies. All appear to be members of the church, leading down to the basement, where they find the broken chair that Rossi was restrained to. And that's it. They've done a good job mocking up the footage, but ironically they've made it too naturalistic. There's no atmosphere or suspense because it's all past tense. In other words, it's 3 straight minutes of a guy walking around a house going, oh, there's a dead person. Oh, there's another dead guy. Very dead. Very, very dead. But Mrs. Rossi is nowhere to be found. Wherever could she be? Jump scare! Because that's how the recording would end when she dived out of the camera as opposed to 10 seconds later when she got arrested.
At about 11:47 p.m. on Sunday evening, the 20th.
20th? I thought it was the 30th. We jump forward to 2009 where we meet Maria's now grown-up daughter Isabella, who has recently learnt that her mother killed those people during an attempted exorcism and now wants to find answers with the help of documentary filmmaker Michael, which gives this flick a tenuous excuse for a plot, along with a bunch of talking heads spouting pseudo-intellectual bollocks and lots of dodgily photoshopped vintage photos. So basically this is all set up that takes 7 minutes to explain what could have been said in 2 if it wasn't for that superfluous crime scene video. There must be bundles of story if there's this much padding in the first 10 minutes. The film desperately tries to present itself as a true story. Its poster and DVD box actually claim it's inspired by true events. Right above a character that literally only appears in the film for 2 seconds, but this is an outright lie, as the credits clearly state the usual fictional disclaimer. Well, that's good, so it's not inspired by an actual Maria Rossi, like the Welsh teenager who tortured and murdered a pensioner along with her friend in 1993. Good to know, that might be quite tasteless. Oh hi, blatant stock footage of Aileen Wuornos.
You start wondering, is it in my genes? Am I gonna flip out one day?
Well, this is a very cliche exorcism movie, so yeah, you're probably going to flip out before the end of the running time. Just saying, love. This trip takes her to Rome, where a criminally insane mother was mysteriously moved to. Ooh, it's a conspiracy.
I asked my dad if he thought she was possessed, and he said he didn't know. He died 3 days later.
I'm not entirely sure that's the work of the devil, that's probably just a coincidence. Besides, wouldn't that be a good omen to, you know, not go after your mother? She arrives in Rome going to Vatican City so she can visit their school of exorcism. The Vatican may not endorse exorcism, but apparently they still teach classes on it in a well-renowned school, no less, in which Michael is allowed to film. Makes perfect sense.
Sometimes a person can be tormented by more than one demon in what we call multiple demonic possession. And they sometimes lead to transference. The demon jumps from one person to another.
Ah, perfect timing! You just walked into the heavy-handed foreshadowing part of the class. How convenient!
Lo faccio, Rosa.
Aiutami, mamma.
Diavolo!
Piggy's mine.
Was she oinking? What, was she possessed by a pig? Talk about hamming it up. And why does the footage always end with people lunging at the camera like an internet screamer video? It's not only desperate, but you could have made them more artificial if you tried. The students, including American priest David and Britt Ben, debate whether or not the person was actually possessed, apparently ignoring the very supernatural thing that appears to be happening right in front of them. If Michael is filming the view from the back, then who is the phantom cameraman filming the class from the front? Can he teleport? You're probably saying, oh, he's just got a team of cameramen, but unfortunately you're being far too logical. Michael is the only crew member, because that's how professional documentaries are made, right? One bloke with a camera. But whilst Ben and David are very convinced that demonic possession is indeed something that really exists, others are much less so, such as Marco, who is very cynical about it. What with his pesky Italian accent, he's clearly an arrogant douche. This is just a lot of pretentious puffery that is the filmmakers trying to show how clever and topical they are. I mean, isn't this exactly what you want when you go see a horror movie? Ethical debate! date. Ooh, spine tingling. And if it wasn't clear enough the movie is only paying lip service to this notion, Marco leaves the movie never to be seen again. Bye! Besides, no one cares if it's mental illness or not because the answer is right there in the title. If they weren't possessed, we wouldn't have a movie. Oh hey, happy birthday to me! Anyway, today is the day that Isabella is going to meet her mother.
Camera 1, 2, and 3. Which one do I look at?
You don't have to look directly at the cameras.
Oh, right.
And remember, the cameras are always running on cars.
A bit where the filmmaker explains the cameras to the audience, I mean the subjects. You know, the sort of thing that isn't usually kept in a documentary, as opposed to a found footage movie, which actually has to establish their location.
Non è possibile andare in giro con la camera.
Show him the media pass.
Grazie.
No, you can't film the patients in here and, oh, is that a press pass? Why didn't you say so? Come right in, access all areas. Yes, film your shit, Matt, film it. This hospital is rather unusual actually, as they'll be allowing Isabella to go in the same room as Maria, despite the fact she has a noted history of violence and is kept heavily sedated. But that was 7 years ago now. I'm sure she'll be pleased as punch to see her daughter.
Don't talk about faith or God, and stay passive. Hostility and aggression are, well, they provoked her in the past. It will be fine. In fact, there is a very good chance she won't even recognize you.
Thanks for that, cheery thought, Doctor. Maybe treat all your patients with the same sensitivity. Also, if she's extremely anti-religious, whose idea was it to cover the doors to her room with a shitload of crosses? So mother and daughter meet for the first time in 20 years. Okay, here's a question for you. Who's filming this angle? We see her place the one that's behind her chair, she put that camera there, but the third angle is the security camera footage, and there's no one else in there with her. Oh crap, the Phantom Cameraman's back again!
Connect the cuts. Do you know how to connect the cuts?
I don't know what that means. Did you do that to yourself?
Those look like pretty fresh cuts to me. Who the hell's giving the clinically insane murderer access to sharp objects?
Do you want to see my painting?
I'd like that. I'd love that.
Wow, Maria, that looks amazing! It's like you used the posterized feature in Photoshop. Susan Crowley, who plays Maria, is hilariously over the top in her two major scenes, really playing up the maniacal bug eyes and theatrical tics to the extreme, and it comes across less unsettling and more like an offbeat comedy character, with the multiple personalities making her a one-woman sketch show.
Oh, out!
That's great. It's great stuff. Are you alright?
Oh, so that was meant to be Michael filming that entire time? Forget all this possession business. I want to know how Michael learnt the powers of invisibility. Isabella takes the footage of Maria to David and Ben, the latter of whom has had plenty of first-hand experience. That's right, we have a scene where the characters are literally watching through the exact same footage we saw 5 minutes ago. You want to know what's really scary? Laboriously and redundantly explaining everything that's meant to be frightening and blatantly obvious. Suspense and mystery, what's that? But it turns out that Ben and David aren't content with theory. They're actually going out and trying to do good by performing unsanctioned exorcisms to those that need them.
I was closest to my uncle. He was a priest. He told me that he was an exorcist. It's like, I suppose, you know, you've been told that your dad's Superman.
Yeah, they're like Batman and Superman, fighting evil. Except instead of capes and superpowers, they're armed with the power of the Lord. Actually, that's kind of where the analogy breaks down. So these rogue priests, and that's making them sound far more interesting than they actually are, invite Isabella and Michael on exorcism with them, despite the fact that it's, you know, illegal.
So do you still get nervous, or?
No.
Really? You realise that 10 minutes went by without any attempt to scare the audience, so you just decided to startle them instead. What, was having a screeching cat run across the frame too subtle?
This is it. We're actually gonna see a person who's supposedly possessed. So I guess now we'll see if it's bullshit or not.
You've flown halfway across the world for a documentary that was your idea. It's a little late to be skeptical. Oh right, it has turned to an arsehole for the sake of the plot. They've come to visit Rosa, who was the girl they saw in the video earlier in the film, whose parents parents have moved her down into the large, dimly lit basement, you know, for dramatic effect. Oh shit, the devil's possessed another poor limber contortionist. It's such a shame. I hear that being double jointed increases your chance of being possessed by a demon 200%. So after setting up cameras and equipment and tying Rose to her bed, Ben and David are ready to start exercising. And sure enough, the demon inside Rosa soon comes out to play.
That you graciously grant me help against this unclean spirit that's tormenting this creature of yours. God, creator and the realms it with fear.
I was disgusted by this scene, not in the way the filmmakers intended, but more because I couldn't believe they stooped so low for a cheap gross-out gag, even showering the camera in menstrual blood for shock effect. Ew, icky, she's doing that thing that many women do once a month? That's revolting!
5 minutes you're alone with her, I promise you. Her cunt will not bleed.
Blood pressure 190 over 110. Hang in, Rosa. Hang in, Rosa. You're not gone, Barrett!
Help me hold her down, Ben, help me hold her down!
Your mother, sweet!
Okay, here's the thing a lot of pretenders just don't understand. The whole your mother knits socks in hell routine from The Exorcist was shocking and provocative because it came out of the mouth of a little girl. When the same thing comes out of a fully grown adult, it just becomes campy and ridiculous. Like the best way to spread evil is to use pickup lines from cheap pornos. So yeah, it's basically all the same tricks that have been borrowed from The Exorcist for 40 years now, such as when Rosa manages to free herself and do a little spider walk up a wall, but they manage to subdue her and perform the rites. Although apparently that's not very interesting because they keep cutting to her empty blood-stained bed and manage to remove the demon. That's right, men, be afraid of leaky women bits and their sexuality. They're the work of the devil. Humanity's only hope is our holy Tampax. Having cured Rosa, and with the church and the hospital unwilling to reassess Maria, Isabella and Ben want to re-evaluate, re-exorcise her, but David is unsure.
We just need time, and we need to know that she's actually possessed.
Yeah, then she can get the proper attention.
No, okay, look, that's not how this works. You're here to document, you're not here to get involved.
What if we find out that it's not DID?
Yeah, think about it, David. This could work.
Michael, look, I know what you're doing. I know it'd be provocative for your film, but we will be arrested.
Yes, it's time to play Blame the Cameraman again, because apparently we're trying to emulate Micah from Paranormal Activity. Thing is though, Micah was invading upon his girlfriend's private life, as opposed to these people who are perfectly willing participants of a documentary. It's not like they didn't know that going in. But then again, several of the characters don't seem to get that.
Possession and exorcism have dictated my life. It took my mom and it basically killed my dad. It defines me now. I don't like that it defines me.
If you don't like that it defines you, don't agree to having a documentary made about yourself and fly off to Rome to visit your possessed mother. There's otherwise nothing stopping you from living a perfectly normal life.
I'm really nervous. I'm an active priest, in good standing with the Holy See. Regardless of the outcome, the church will find out, and it will put my job in jeopardy.
Again, if you're that worried about the church finding out, don't agree to participate in a documentary about exorcism that actually shows you performing an illegal one. That's pretty much your fault, dude. So a few days later, they visit to have some private time with Maria Rossi, which the hospital is apparently perfectly willing to do, despite claiming that reassessing her might harm her mental well-being. They try to stir the demon out by confronting her with religious symbols, but at first she shows absolutely no signs of anything untoward.
This isn't consistent with any form of possession that I've ever seen. I'm sorry, Isabella. This...
Now, I don't claim to know what demons may think, but all I had to do was lay dormant for a couple of minutes and just wait for them to conclude they were wrong. Instead, it decides to make its presence known and makes a big show about it. And it would have gone away with it too, that silly spawn of Satan. From there, the scene turns into a total laugh riot, especially the multiple voices and accents that come out of Maria's mouth.
I know you. I know you, little girl.
Father in heaven.
Oh, yeah. Oh, shove that needle in your fucking eye, you faggot!
Oh, she's got a wee little leprechaun inside her. Did those bastards steal your lucky charms again, Maria? and somehow her Irish accent is almost as bad as mine. They try to restrain her, but she's just too powerful. You can tell because she's distorting the camera, including a moment where she transfers a demon into David as he tries to hold her down.
The God the Father commands you!
Oh, you can't get back in your God's good graces, priest. Not after what you did.
Come that close to me one more time, and I'll use your tongue to skull fuck the baby killer over there.
Skull fucking? It's hard to take that seriously, especially when you're trying so hard. The movie keeps making vague references to some incident in Ben's past that involved killing a young child. What exactly happened? Never explained. Because why give us an interesting character when it can be pointlessly ambiguous? Despite the comically bad attempts to try and keep her tied up, they managed to conclude the exorcism, even if it's uncertain whether it was successful, as hostel staff soon barge in and stop them recording. A few days later they look back over the footage. No, you're not. That was 3 days ago. Stop being over-impressed with yourself because you got slammed into a wall. And why aren't you all in prison with your equipment and footage confiscated, considering you clearly performed an illegal exorcism? Nevertheless, Ben considers this the evidence that they need to prove that demonic possession does exist, and is planning to help extradite Maria back to the States. But they decline releasing her, so that's the last we ever hear of that, so never mind. Analysing the audio, Ben comes to the conclusion that Maria has multiple demonic possession. Good thing you caught the class on that. Although what he fails to notice, especially since everyone is beginning to get on each other's tits, is David is starting to behave erratically, including a big suspicious nosebleed.
David, what the fuck are you doing? Look, I really think we need to talk about some stuff.
That's how the devil truly spreads its evil into the world. Late night snacking. That's how it all starts. You just fall off the wagon on your diet and then boom, you're possessed. Hunger is the most insidious of all thoughts. Suddenly, and for seemingly no reason whatsoever, there's a little section of the film where Michael follows David as he performs a baptism, announces the transference of sins, yada yada yada, which would be grossly off topic from the documentary he's making. Let me guess, he's gonna drown the baby, 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 he's gonna drown the baby.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
David! Stop! What are you doing, David? David, stop! Stop!
Oh, would you look at that? He tried to drown the baby. That wasn't completely obvious whatsoever. Whilst looking over the Maria exorcism, Ben and Isabella noticed the cameras black out as Isabella was touching Maria's face and wonder what that means. Of course, we know what it does, as she also starts showing signs of being possessed as David and Michael return. As a distraught Michael tries to explain what happened, the lights suddenly go out, and they go upstairs to visit David and find his wrist slashed and his eyes white.
What do we do, Ben?
I don't know. I don't know.
I
I don't know what to do.
How the hell could he move across the room like that silently without any of them noticing? I know he's possessed, but that didn't stop him from making footsteps. I guess he's managed to pick up Michael's teleporting powers whilst he's at it. They rush downstairs where the police burst in after David. One of the officers goes upstairs to confront him, but comes out about 10 seconds later screaming that David has taken his gun off camera. How the hell did that happen? David stands at the doorway with the gun and threatens to shoot himself with it, and despite efforts to talk him down, he does anyway and immediately triggers a seizure in Isabella. She's swiftly taken into hospital, where Ben starts talking to a mysterious Dr. Kellen on the phone about taking Isabella to see him. Don't worry, that's yet another thing that's dropped just as quickly as it's introduced.
We need to get her over now!
Huh, funny how the blood spray that hit the camera from the nurse's gushing neck wound looks exactly like the one that came from Rosa. You know, before it faded away from existence. Also, if you're a priest, the hospital staff will listen to you as if you have any kind of authority.
We need to get her under control.
Stop me, please!
Okay, she's become a contortionist. Let's try to think of the positives here. She has a very promising career in Cirque du Soleil ahead of her. After telling the nurse to help the injured staff, Ben and Michael are allowed to carry Isabella out of the hospital just like that, while still not putting down the fucking camera. They put her in the back of the car, completely unrestrained, not even a damn seatbelt. Put her in the boot, you morons!
Don't let it get you.
When I was 13, my uncle told me he was an exorcist.
Who are you?
Does that mean she's possessed by the devil, old Beelzebub himself? Wow, this movie's finally getting interesting after that hour of tedium. This climax is actually really exciting. But just as that happens, Isabella grabs Michael in the driver's seat. This is enough for him to also become possessed, taking his seatbelt off and swerving the car into an oncoming vehicle, causing it to crash and flip over several times. When it stops, every single one of them lies motionless, presumably dead. And then, as the audience-insulting cherry on top, the movie directs the audience to a viral website for more information about the ongoing investigation. This is why the movie is so notorious. It doesn't even have an ending. It's 2/3 of a not particularly good movie. The fact they all died at the end isn't surprising because it's cliche and routine, but because it happens so suddenly. In Paranormal Activity, you knew it was the ending. They built it up properly, and it wasn't a total dead stop in the middle of the climax. And if Michael's dead, who the fuck just edited this documentary? However, the final insult is the credits, which may possibly be the slowest crawl in history, as the filmmakers desperately try to pad their running time to the minimum length of a theatrical feature, as the actual film stopped at just past the 70-minute mark. The ending credits are 7 minutes long, so basically 10% of the running time is made up of agonizingly slow credits. Maybe the website can give us some closure. That's right, the website doesn't even work anymore. In fact, it's been down for roughly around a year now, because apparently Paramount was too cheap to pay for more than a year's hosting on a domain name that's in every single copy of the film. Anyway, using the Wayback Machine, the site is your average viral webpage. It's got some character biographies which add some more backstory, but really this is more of a site you go to before seeing the film, as it doesn't reveal any of the later events nor elaborate on them. The best part is the Discuss the Case with Others page, which features several clearly AstroTurf comments with usernames like Sierra or Shyla and several others who all laughably treat the movie as if it's real, and then hordes of commenters who quickly point out the movie was fake, along with crackpots that claim to have witnessed exorcisms, and a suspicious number of people claiming the movie was great or awesome, but seldom a word against it. So basically the same pissing contest as in any comment section then. In the words of supposedly Isabella Rossi, you all suck, this movie was so real. If the idea was to give it some unresolved questions so they could spin it off into a franchise, and the violently negative reaction quickly assured us there wouldn't be a sequel. The Devil Inside is one of the most cynical projects of recent years. It is absolutely devoid of any kind of creativity or originality, and its handling of both the exorcism theme and the found footage style, it's rote and only going where countless other imitators have gone before and much better, as both are laughably artificial. In fact, it's not even sure whether it's trying to be a mockumentary or a found footage movie, and as such does both poorly. The pace is mind-numbingly slow and drawn out, with a whole host of characters you don't care about discussing eye-rolling semantics over and over again. It gestures in about half a dozen directions, including hints of a Vatican conspiracy or dark character backstories that has no intention of fully exploring, so what we're left with is an hour of the movie not doing very much before rushing headlong into a frenzied last 10 minutes and then stops. It's there where you realise the real evil here is the whole exercise in fleecing poor, already exploited horror fans with even less than minimal efforts. The Devil Inside, you foul demon, I spit and denounce at thee, and I cast you out! Begone, devil! I'm Matthew Buck, beating down bad movies everywhere.